Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Fatih Yildirim, and this presentation is titled Religion as a Double-Edged Sword, an Autoethnographic Study of Resilience Between Religion, Secularism, and the State in Turkey. I'd like to begin with a moment that captures the heart of my story. A few years ago, during a faculty meeting in my divinity school, a senior colleague smiled and warned me gently, saying that, Fatih, be careful. Sociology makes religion too Western. Just a week later, at a National Social Sciences conference, a secular colleague looked at my name tag and said, "Oh, you teach real sociology in a theology faculty? That's surprising." Between these two comments lies the paradox of my academic life. Too modern for the religious and too religious for the modern. This tension, this uncomfortable in-between spaces is the starting point of my autoethnographic reflection. So, Turkey has always lived with a deep cultural contradiction. Since the early republic, the state has aspired to produce a secular, modern citizen, while at the same time tightly regulating religion through its institutions. However, religion remains central to daily life and national identity, yet it's also a political fault line. And divinity schools in Turkey sits exactly at this crossroad. They carry centuries of Islamic scholarly tradition, but they operate inside a modern secular university system that demands scientific legitimacy and methodology. And this tension is not abstract. It shapes careers, academic relationships, and the very definition of what counts as real knowledge. This is why I chose autoethnography. Autoethnography helps us connect the personal to the political, and it reveals the complex, often painful relationships between self and society. For scholars like me, it gives language to experiences that are usually unspoken. It turns vulnerability into data and lived contradiction into insight. Let me describe the paradox more clearly. Inside the divinity school in Turkey, sociology often raises suspicion. Some colleagues believe that studying religion with social scientific tools risks diluting its essence, that analyzing religion sociologically might weaken faith rather than eliminate it. Sometimes my students ask me, "Professor, if everything is social, what is God in your analysis?" This question reveals the fear that modern academic methods, concepts like discourse, social construction, power, they might be incompatible with religious authenticity. In this context, I'm often viewed as a modernist, maybe even a secularist, someone who studies religion from the outside rather than embodying it from within. Meanwhile, in the wider academic world in Turkey, divinity schools carry stigma. For many secular scholars, a theology faculty is automatically seen as ideological or as lacking scientific rigor. As a result, my work is sometimes dismissed before it's even read. So, this is especially what Pierre Bourdieu calls the drawing of symbolic boundaries, lines that separate legitimate from illegitimate knowledge. In Turkey especially, those boundaries are strongly shaped by political and ideological histories. And so, I find myself pushed to the margins of both communities. The religious community questions my modernity, the secular community questions my academic legitimacy. And this is not simply my personal struggle, it mirrors the deeper fractures of Turkish society. These experiences help me understand what I call the double-edged sword and double-edged nature of religion in Turkey. On one side, religion gives meaning, community, resilience, and moral grounding. It provides direction, identity, and emotional connection. On the other side, religion becomes a marker that can exclude, stigmatize, scholar credibility and academic identity. In certain academic settings, it becomes a reason not to be fully accepted, for instance. So, as scholars mentioned, like Jose Casanova and Talal Asad, religion is never simply belief. It's shaped by history, power, and the state. In Turkey, this is especially visible. Religion can empower, but it can also constrain. And in my case, it becomes a lens through which others interpret or misinterpret my academic career and academic identity. So, through this autoethnographic project, I want to offer 3 contributions. First, academic identities are not neutral. They are formed through political histories, institutional expectations, and cultural anxieties. Second, the Turkish case shows how scholars navigate contradictory ideological worlds. On one side, religious, and the other side, secular, traditional, and modern. And third, autoethnography. It's vital for making visible these hidden tensions. It allows us to bridge personal narrative with national discourse, to connect private experience to public structure. And by sharing my story in short, my hope is to open a conversation how scholars survive, negotiate, and create meaning when they stand in the crossfire of religion, secularism, and state power. Thank you. Thank you for listening, and hope to meet you in the live conference in March.